My name is Dr. Harlan Whitaker. I'm 76. For 39 years, I operated on hearts and lungs, thousands of them, trying to give people more time. I was good at it, precise, calm under pressure. People thanked me in hallways, sent cards, called me a lifesaver. I believed the title.
3 months ago, I sat in my own hospital's oncology clinic, same building where I'd scrubbed in countless times, and heard the words I delivered to others so many times. Stage 3 non-small cell lung cancer.
Metastatic nodules already visible in the mediastinum. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air system. My oncologist, someone I'd trained, spoke gently, laid out the options: concurrent chemoradiation, possible lobectomy if response is good, immunotherapy on the table. Survival curves, side effect profiles, quality of life data.
I nodded like I always had when patients ask questions.
Inside, though, something strange happened. Not panic. Not denial.
A single, clear thought.
So this is the clock I've been given.
The first week is mechanical. You tell your wife, your children, your closest colleagues. You schedule scans, labs, port placement. You research trials. You're still the doctor in the room. It's the second week, after the numbness thins, that the grief arrives. Not for the body failing, but for the life you realize you deferred. I woke at 4:17 a.m. one Tuesday, looked at Claire sleeping beside me, the same woman who waited through every late-night page for 38 years, and started crying. Not loudly, quietly, the way you do when you don't want to wake someone. I wasn't crying because I was afraid to die. I was crying because I could finally see the map of my life clearly, and most of the roads I'd taken had been chosen for safety, not for aliveness. For 39 years, I did what was expected. Top of my class at Harvard Medical School, chief resident at Mass General, full professor by 42, department chair by 50. I built a reputation, a pension, college funds for our 3 children. I was proud. I still am. But pride can blind you. The truth I never admitted until the cancer forced the mirror in front of me. I stopped loving medicine somewhere in my late 40s. Not every day. There were still moments in the OR when time dissolved and I felt the old fire. But most days, I was performing the role of the great surgeon, more than I was living as a healer. The fluorescent hallways, the endless charts, the administrative meetings, the pressure to publish, the nights I came home after midnight and Claire was already asleep. I stayed because it was prestigious, because it paid for the house on the Cape, because my father, a GP who never took a vacation, told me a man provides. And I believed him. When I was 25, I wanted to write. Not medical papers, real writing. Stories, essays. I kept a notebook in my locker during residency. Late nights, after rounds, I'd scribble about patients, about the smell of the OR, about the way fear changes a face. I published one short piece in a literary magazine under a pseudonym. My attending found it, laughed, said, "Harlan, stick to scalpels. You're too good to waste time on poetry." I put the notebook away. I told myself he was right. I told myself there would be time later. There wasn't. After the diagnosis, I went down to the basement. 30 years of boxes. In one, I found that old notebook. Pages yellowed, ink faded. I read a few lines and started crying again. Not for the writing itself, but for the young man who believed his own life was worth putting on paper. Claire walked in, saw me sitting on the floor with the notebook open. She didn't say anything at first, just sat beside me. After a while she asked, "Do you want to start again?" I laughed through tears. At 76? With stage 3 lung cancer? She said, "Why not? You have time you didn't have yesterday." So I did. Not to become a famous writer. Not to prove anything. Just to feel what it's like to make something that isn't a surgical incision or a dictated note. I write every morning now,
before the fatigue from chemo sets in. Short pieces, memories, letters to my grandchildren they can read when I'm gone. Some days I manage 2 paragraphs. Some days only a sentence. It doesn't matter. The act itself reminds me I'm still here. Cancer doesn't make you wise. It strips away the excuses that kept you from being honest. The regrets aren't the dramatic ones. I didn't cheat on my wife. I didn't abandon my children. The regrets are quieter, more ordinary, more universal. The evenings I came home too tired to talk and sat in front of the television instead of asking Claire about her day. The weekends I spent charting instead of taking the kids to the lake. The vacations we canceled because the service can't run without me. The times my daughter asked me to read her a story and I said, "Tomorrow, sweetheart," and tomorrow became 20 years. The way I let prestige become a substitute for presence. My son Ethan came to visit last week. He's 51, an architect in Seattle. We sat in the garden, me in a chair, oxygen cannula in my nose, and he said, "Dad, I always thought you loved being a surgeon more than anything." I looked at him. I thought I did too. Turns out I love the idea of being needed more than I love the work itself. He asked what I would do differently. I told him the truth. I would have said no more often. I would have come home earlier. I would have written. I would have listened to your mother when she said she was lonely. I would have taught you how to carve instead of how to study for boards. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You can still teach me to carve." So we did. In the garage, with my hands shaking from neuropathy, I showed him how to hold a gouge, how to read the grain. We made a small box walnut, imperfect joints, but ours. When he left, he took it with him. He said he'd keep it on his desk. Here's what the diagnosis gave me that no lecture or textbook ever could. Absolute clarity about what matters. Time is finite, not abstractly, literally. The people you love will not remember your titles. They will remember whether you were there. The things you postpone, thinking there's time, are the very things time takes first. Regret is not about the roads not taken. It's about the roads you did take and then pretended were the right ones. I'm not cured. The tumors are responding to treatment, shrinking slowly, but the odds are still long. I might have 18 months. I might have 5 years. No one knows. What I do know is that I'm no longer waiting for permission to live the rest of whatever time I have. I write every morning. I talk to Claire without the armor of "I'm fine." I call my children not to lecture, but to listen. I sit in the garden and feel the sun on my face without thinking about the next case. I tell people I love them before I hang up the phone. Small acts, huge difference. If you're watching this and you're healthy, don't wait for a scan or a biopsy to give you permission. Ask yourself tonight, am I living the life I actually want or the one I think I'm supposed to want? Who am I postponing joy for? What small thing have I always wanted to do that I've told myself later about? Start today. Not tomorrow, not after the next promotion, the kids graduate, the mortgage is paid. Today. 3 books that helped me face the truth. When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. This channel is for people willing to look honestly at the lives they're living. If this meant anything to you, subscribe, turn on notifications, share it with someone who needs to hear it before a doctor has to say the words. In the comments, if you want, tell me one thing you're going to stop postponing. I read every one. I don't have forever to read them, so make them count. Thank you for listening to an old surgeon who finally learned that saving time for yourself is the most important operation you'll ever perform.